Hi, eighth graders. Happy day. Some of you are in my direct instruction class, and some of you are in workshop. Throughout this presentation, I will try to be clear with what my expectations are for you, depending on which setting you're in. Okay. At the start of the school year, I always kind of flounder a little bit with geography because I think about how big of a world we live in. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much to teach them. But then I realize a lot of what you're going to be studying is going to be brought on by you, if that makes sense. Like you are going to be able to investigate, you're going to be able to figure out what are those really interesting pieces of each of our countries or continents or cities, like all of these places that we're looking at. What draws you to that place? How can you personally connect to it? So, with that, with me feeling like, blah, kind of all over the place, I thought it would be smart for us to start in kind of a big idea of culture. And I want to try to examine that today and say, what is culture? Here we go. So, when we start to talk about a word, it's good to have a formal definition, but then it's also good for healthy for us to make sense of that word as a group or as individuals. So, a formal definition that I found on the Googles for culture would be the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. Another way of saying that formal definition is another formal definition of culture: the attitudes and behavior characteristics of a particular social group. So some of you might listen to that and be like, what? Like, that makes no sense to me. Our job today is to try to make sense of what culture is, how it looks, how we can identify with it, where it fits into our lives. I think this is a good time for us to kind of conceptualize the idea of holy moly, yes, there are 7 continents. All of those continents, in their own unique individual way, carry and hold their own cultures. So, in that little map on the right hand side, it says North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. All 7 of those continents have so many different characteristics, maybe human characteristics, maybe physical characteristics. They have so many differences, but they also have so many things in common, so many similarities. Okay, so then on that next little chunk down on this slide, I explain even within each of those continents, there are countries that share their own individual culture. So if you look at Africa, for example, you're going to see so many countries within that continent of Africa that, again, they have so many similarities, but they also have so many differences. And it's really our job to investigate or dissect or really try to figure out what makes each of them unique, right? Then I say, oh my gosh, not to mention, so we talked about continents, we talked about countries within those continents. Within each of those countries, you're going to see even smaller divisions. Okay, so I said not to mention each family, city, town, county, etc. They all live their own culture too. So just because we're in Little Falls or Morrison County doesn't mean that we have the exact same culture as another county really close to us in Minnesota. There's going to be differences, and yes, there will be similarities. It says even within families, you can see that different members live their lives differently. Oh, when I think about my family, my mom and dad, or my husband and I, we definitely have our different ideas. We have different clothing styles. We use different language. I don't mean like different language. We all speak English, but I mean we use different words to describe different things. So even within your family, there can be unique cultures as well. It's so important for us as eighth graders to understand that culture really defines each of us, not in a bad way, but it helps describe who we are as a person or as a group of people and what our attitudes, beliefs, all of that, all of that contributes to culture. I want you to just take a minute to think to yourself, what are some specific parts of your day that help explain your culture that you live each day? Okay, so it could be from when you wake up to when you go to bed. Think about each of those little pockets of your day. So I thought about, okay, well, parts of my culture that are specific to me would be what I had for breakfast, the house that I live in, the neighborhood that I live in, the school that I go to work. For you, would be the school that you go to learn. Interests, maybe the way that you spend your time after school. Each of those elements contribute to your culture or our culture. I'm giving you time to think right now about your culture. Okay, so here's my Bitmoji holding the globe, turning it, spinning it, smiling, loving it. I said, honestly, this is a great time for me to explain to you how important or essential, so essential, it is to be respectful of others' culture. I had to say this because I know some of us need to hear it. Just because it may be different, the way someone else lives their life, in another country, in another city, in another continent, right? Just because it may be different than the way you live or the way I live, definitely does not make it wrong or weird or stupid. I think sometimes when you hear about something and it's so different than the way you live or the way I live, we can be like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. Wait, no, it's not weird. That's amazing and awesome. Like, there's a reason why they live that way. We just need to take time to understand that story, right? So I said, kind of corny, but it's true. The world is a pretty amazing place. Yes, 2020 has been a little bit brutal. However, like, we still have so many awesome things to learn about and to explore. We need to continue to strive to say, let's figure out all of those cool ways that people live and the way that people thrive. So on this slide, I'm trying to prompt you to do a reading. It says, now you will spend some time reading a bit about culture. Culture is such a big idea and big concept that it is really hard to find any readings or videos to show you because they're either super, super elementary or they're super, super complex. Like, whoa. That I found a reading that I think is a good level for us to read right now in the beginning under our understandings of culture. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time, you as an individual, being able to read through this article. Okay, so the note at the bottom, it says you're going to pause the video and you're going to go to your Geography Daily Lessons doc under your classwork tab in Google Classroom to navigate to this reading. Okay, once you get to that Geography Daily Lessons doc, you're going to be able to click into it. You're going to read the entire article. It's actually not that long, so don't panic. Once you feel like you've read the entire article and you're like, I still might feel confused, read it again. There's no harm in reading the entire thing again or just reading certain parts of it again. Okay? So revisit the parts that you feel are necessary. Once you feel like you have a solid understanding of the article, then I want you to come back to this video and then you will press play. Okay, so now is my favorite part of our lesson. I'd like you to brainstorm with me. And so if you're in our direct instruction class, like my direct instruction class right now, we're going to try to brainstorm together as a class on the dry erase board. But also, I can understand that'd be kind of hard if you're not physically in the room with me. So if you're in a workshop class, your class can either choose to discuss as a large group or you can brainstorm and record your thoughts individually. I really find, it's necessary that if you are in workshop and you're doing this individually, I want you to bring your ideas to our direct instruction class tomorrow, okay? I don't want you to think, oh, brainstorming, I'm not going to do that and I'm just going to like sit and twiddle my thumbs. No, you're actually going to brainstorm either on your iPad, make a list, save it somewhere where you're going to remember it, or put it on a piece of notebook paper, save it, put it somewhere where you're going to remember it, and then when we come back to our direct instruction, you're going to be able to share with us.